Just say this. Every label passed up on me. Every record company passed up on me. Every and every crew, like I'm from New York. Jay's crew and 50's crew didn't sign me. I wasn't signed to Nas, and or I wasn't signed to anybody.
Sing, she's in movies. How big would she have been had she not tragically lost her life? Was she headed to, because we see Beyonce sing, she's in movies. Was she going to be Beyonce before Beyonce?
I think it would have probably been, just how I think it would have been. 4 girls. Well, 5. Missy, Beyonce. I said, like 5 like top-notch girls. Missy, Beyonce, Aaliyah, Rihanna. It's another girl too. Nicki. I think she would have been in those top 5. I don't know if she would have beat or been, we don't know that,
right.
But she would have been top 5, top 3 maybe.
How do you dominate the biggest night in music without even showing up? That's exactly what happened at the 2026 Grammy Awards. Inside the Crypto.com arena, the energy was polished, cameras flashing, A-list celebrities dressed to the nines, Trevor Noah stepping out for what was billed as his final time hosting. It was supposed to be a celebration. Then one joke shifted the temperature. During the opening monologue, Nicki Minaj's name came up. She wasn't nominated, she wasn't performing, she wasn't even in the building. But when the punchline landed, referencing her recent political appearances and White House visit, the camera caught audience reactions in real time. Some laughed, some clapped, some looked uncomfortable. And within minutes, everything changed. While awards were being handed out on stage, something else was happening online. Nicki Minaj began posting, rapidly, directly, unfiltered. By the middle of the broadcast, her name was trending worldwide. Search data showed she was the most searched artist that night, outperforming even the winners walking across the stage. Think about that. The person who wasn't invited controlled the entire digital conversation. Meanwhile, inside the arena, the show kept rolling. Outside of it, the narrative flipped. What was meant to be a light joke became fuel. What looked like industry laughter felt, to some fans, like coordinated mockery. And whether you agree with her response or not, one thing is undeniable. Nicki Minaj hijacked the Grammys without stepping foot on the carpet. But that wasn't the full story. Because the post that followed didn't just respond to a joke. They escalated into something much bigger. What started as a response turned into a takeover. As the Grammys broadcast continued, Nicki Minaj began posting at a pace that felt relentless. Not one tweet, not 2, dozens, each sharper than the last. She criticized the ceremony. She questioned industry loyalty. She challenged powerful figures by name. Some posts referenced long-standing business grievances. Others tied into her recent political alignment. The tone was intense, personal, defiant. Within minutes, timelines across X were flooded. Fans amplified her words. Critics dissected them. Blogs began publishing updates in real time. Media outlets framed it as a meltdown. Supporters framed it as exposure. And here's what made it powerful. While artists inside the arena were accepting trophies, Aunt Nicki was commanding attention from outside the building. Google Trends showed her search traffic spiking beyond the award winners themselves. That's influence. But influence cuts both ways. Some viewers felt her posts crossed into territory that blurred music with politics and personal accusations. Others argued she was finally saying out loud what many artists quietly feel about gatekeeping in the industry. The narrative split instantly. Was this emotional reaction or strategic disruption? Because timing matters. She didn't post the next morning. She didn't issue a calm statement days later. She chose the exact moment the spotlight was brightest. And by doing that, she shifted the focus from trophies to tension. But here's where things escalated even further. The Grammy jokes weren't the root, they were the trigger. But the real fire had been burning for years. And at the center of it sat one unresolved question about money. Long before Grammy night, there was another issue quietly building: money. Back in 2015, when Jay-Z relaunched Tidal as an artist-owned streaming platform, the message was clear. Creators would finally have equity in the system. Major artists stood beside him at the launch event, including Nicki Minaj. Reports at the time suggested several artists received ownership stakes, widely cited around 3%. In exchange, they promoted the platform and helped drive attention toward it. Fast forward to 2021. Jay-Z sold a majority stake of Tidal to Block Inc., a deal reported to be worth roughly $297 million. On paper, that kind of transaction should have meant payouts for equity holders. Here's where the tension begins. Nicki later suggested publicly that the compensation she received did not reflect what she believed she was owed. At one point, she referenced figures between $100 million and $200 million. That number caught fire immediately. Now pause. If the reported sale was under $300 million, how does a 3% stake turn into $200 million? Basic math raises questions. Without seeing private contracts, vesting clauses, or dilution details, outsiders can only speculate. And that's the problem. There's no public lawsuit, no court filings, no formal legal dispute on record, just tweets, statements, and silence. Which leads to the bigger mystery. If someone truly believes they're owed that kind of money, why not take it to court? And if the claim is completely baseless, why hasn't there been a public rebuttal? Instead, what we have is a standoff. Means one side speaking loudly, the other side saying nothing, and that silence keeps the question alive. If the money tension was private business, the Super Bowl felt public. When the NFL announced that Kendrick Lamar would headline the halftime show in New Orleans, reactions split immediately. Kendrick is critically acclaimed, commercially successful, and widely respected. On paper, it made sense. But culturally, many fans expected someone else. Lil Wayne is New Orleans. His legacy in that city runs deep. For years, people assumed that if the Super Bowl ever landed in his hometown, the halftime slot would be his moment. It didn't happen. And because Jay-Z's Rock Nation co-produces the halftime show, attention shifted toward him. Even though the NFL makes final decisions, the association alone fueled speculation. Nicki didn't stay quiet. She publicly suggested Wayne was overlooked and implied that personal tensions may have influenced the outcome. She framed it not just as a booking decision, but as an ego-driven move. Those comments amplified the conversation overnight. Now, to be clear, there is no verified evidence proving the halftime selection was retaliatory or personal. The NFL has never stated that. Kendrick's resume alone justifies a headline slot, but perception drives narratives. For Nicki and many fans, it wasn't about whether Kendrick deserved it. It was about whether Wayne deserved it more, especially in his own city. And once you connect that to the unresolved Tidal tension, it starts to look less isolated and more patterned. That's when the storyline shifts. It's no longer just about performance slots, it becomes about influence. And influence is where this entire saga keeps circling back. Here's where things moved from disagreement to distrust. After the money dispute and the Super Bowl debate, Nicki Minaj began pushing a larger idea that she wasn't just being slighted, she was being suppressed. She suggested her music was being buried. She questioned chart placements. She implied that industry power structures were working behind the scenes to limit her reach. At different points, she referenced Billboard, streaming visibility, and social media algorithms. Those are heavy claims. To be clear, there is no verified evidence proving a coordinated effort to suppress her career. No confirmed investigations, no formal rulings, just public statements and fan speculation. But here's why the narrative gained traction. In modern music, visibility is everything. Algorithms determine reach. Playlist placement can define a song's life cycle. Award show nominations influence perception. If an artist feels excluded from those pipelines, it doesn't feel random. It feels intentional. Nicki also announced she would not release new music until her contract was renegotiated on her terms. That turned frustration into leverage. It signaled that something behind the scenes wasn't aligning with her expectations. For her fans, the dots connected quickly. Tidal tension, Super Bowl controversy, Grammy mockery, now alleged suppression. Even if each event can be explained individually, stacked together they create a powerful narrative. And narratives don't require court documents to spread. They require belief. The real question isn't just whether sabotage exists. It's why so many artists, not just Nicki, openly question how much control major institutions hold over what the public sees. And once that question enters the conversation, it doesn't disappear easily. What makes this saga hit harder is the history. This isn't two strangers beefing on social media. Nicki Minaj and Jay-Z have shared stages, praise, and professional respect for over a decade. Rewind to 2009. When Kanye West released Monster, the feature list was stacked. Jay-Z, Rick Ross, Bon Iver, and a rising Nicki Minaj. But when the track dropped, it was Nicki's verse that shook the culture. That moment announced her arrival at superstar level. Industry insiders have long said Jay-Z tried to sign her to Roc Nation early on. She chose Young Money and Lil Wayne instead. That decision didn't appear hostile at the time, and it looked like loyalty. For years after, the relationship seemed cordial. She publicly admired his business mind. She modeled her 2014 album The Pink Print after his Blueprint series, a clear homage. They appeared together at events. At the 2015 title launch, they stood side by side promoting artist ownership. When tensions surfaced years later, fans didn't see it as random. They saw it as a shift. Somewhere between admiration and accusation, something changed. The tone moved from respect to suspicion. Subtle comments turned into direct statements. That's why this doesn't feel like a simple disagreement. It feels personal. When someone you once praised becomes someone you publicly challenge, the fallout carries more weight. It suggests broken trust, not just broken contracts. And that context is critical, because when history exists, silence speaks louder. And Jay-Z's silence? In most rap feuds, the response comes fast. A verse, a statement, a lawsuit. But in this case, Jay-Z chose something else. Nothing. No tweets addressing the $200 million claims. No interview clarifying the title math. No public reaction to the Grammy night posts. No legal filings announced. Just silence. And that silence became its own headline. When Nicki Minaj was trending worldwide, naming names and questioning power structures, many expected a rebuttal. Instead, Roc Nation continued operating as usual. Jay-Z appeared at events. Business moved forward. No acknowledgement. There are a few ways to read that. One interpretation is legal caution. High-level contracts often include confidentiality clauses. Publicly disputing numbers could create more risk than benefit. Silence can be strategic. Another interpretation is status. Jay-Z operates at billionaire level. Engaging publicly might elevate the dispute instead of minimizing it. Sometimes ignoring controversy reduces its lifespan. But here's the twist. Silence doesn't end speculation. It extends it. If the accusations are baseless, some ask why not shut them down clearly? If there's something to clarify, why not clarify it? Instead, we're left with a vacuum. And in that vacuum, narratives grow. Nicki continues speaking. Jay-Z continues not speaking. One controls the noise, the other controls composure. And sometimes in business, composure is the power move. But whether it's confidence or calculation, that silence is shaping the story just as much as the tweets are. At this point, calling this rap drama feels too small. What's unfolding between Nicki Minaj and Jay-Z isn't just about tweets, trophies, or even a disputed payout. It's about power. Nicki represents the artist who built an empire through dominance, fan loyalty, and cultural impact. Jay-Z represents the executive who turned rap success into boardroom influence, tech investments, sports partnerships, and corporate leverage. This is creator versus infrastructure. When Nicki talks about money, she's talking about ownership. When she talks about the Super Bowl, she's talking about influence. When she talks about suppression, she's talking about control of narrative. And when Jay-Z stays silent, he's demonstrating a different kind of power, the kind that doesn't react publicly. That contrast is what keeps this story alive. One side uses visibility, the other uses restraint. Our fans are left reading between the lines. Is this a misunderstood business deal? Is this personal resentment from years of tension? Is this a bigger industry reckoning brewing under the surface? There are no court verdicts, no official statements closing the chapter, just claims, reactions, and silence. But one thing is undeniable. Nicki proved at the 2026 Grammys that she can dominate the conversation without a microphone or a stage. And Jay-Z proved that he can let a storm rage without saying a word. That's not small. That's influence meeting influence. And until something shifts, legally or publicly, this isn't over. It's evolving. Now I want to hear from you. Was Grammy night a breaking point or a calculated move? Do you think this is really about money? Or is this about power, control, and who really runs the industry behind the scenes? Drop your take in the comments, but keep it real and keep it respectful. There are a lot of strong opinions on both sides, and this conversation isn't slowing down anytime soon. If you rock with deep breakdowns like this, where we separate what's confirmed from what's claimed and actually connect the dots, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We're not just chasing headlines, we're analyzing patterns. Also, smash that like button if this gave you a new angle you hadn't considered before. It helps push the video out so more people can join the discussion. And if there's another industry story you want unpacked next, let me know below. Because one thing is clear, this saga isn't finished. And when the next chapter drops, you already know we'll be right here breaking it down.